The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. The pinnacle and the heart of American motorsport. When you think of world-famous tracks and you think of North America, Watkins Glen will always be at the top of your list. As a home of Formula One, a staple on the NASCAR calendar, hosting the Watkins Glen Endurance Challenges, and tonight the Red Sox Racing League. Welcome everyone to PTR TV, where we are proud to present race number 4 of the Red Sox Racing League in their fall 2022 GT3 and LMP campaign here on the high-speed road course in upstate New York. It's going to be myself, Corey Silva, doing the one-man show both in the booth and in the tech trailer, putting on the images that you see here this evening, as we have quite the field here and quite the race on our hands, to be in the process here at Watkins Glen qualifying. As we always at this time of the race of the server, catch us with our qualifying for the LMPs, as they are on track right now, turning their lap times. And I think we have overall the better part of 25 drivers here this evening, so we'll see who indeed is going to have the speed, who is going to have the run. Mitch Heller kind of on a hot streak when it comes to LMP, ironing out those kinks and pulling off the W's. So see if he can have another one here this evening, with Ryan Robertson in second in qualifying, Ross Booth in third, and Aldo Secklin. Remember, he was a competitive driver last season, wasn't so much present earlier this season, but has found his way back into the session. Currently our GT3 pole sitter by a half a second over Robert Barrow, so quite the margin there. But being an open qualifying session, and what the nature of Watkins Glen is, the slipstream is going to be very important in qualifying here. Currently watching Les Turner in the Batmobile. He has Todd Baron-Pietri right in front of him. Obviously Watkins Glen, you saw it from the track map, and I think everybody watching this video is very akin to the layout here at Watkins Glen. Of course, we are running the boot configuration. We did run the cup configuration last season. But this track is 85% straightaways with a couple varying corners, whether it be 90-degree corners, chicanes, or the S's. But a lot of the racetrack here is going to be on the accelerator, so you're going to have slipstream opportunities. So under qualifying conditions, if you can get a little bit of a tow, that is going to be your best friend here at Watkins Glen International. But currently see on Jason Breifogel right here, who's not really been as successful in the LMP as he was in the TCR last season. Alex Keatslar currently 5th on the lineup here, 0.6 of a second back, but we'll see how everything does play out. We are estimating about 3 to 4 interactions between classes, so I have been told by admin, so we'll see how that is with the speed differences. I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic here as at other tracks. The difference in laps is about 11 seconds, but given how much of this track is just straightaway, it shouldn't be too bad in navigating. And after the Chicago street race last week, where at least at LMP, Mitch Heller just walked away with the race with a very minimal intervention. He's going to see what he can do here this week pertaining to the points. He is up by 5 over Mitch Heller. Jason Breyfogle 9 points behind the lead in LMP, and then Robert Barros is our GT3 leader by 3 points over Terry Dahl, and Mark Kidrowski is our third in that class. But remember, we do have the drop week, which is not calculated into those standings, so still a lot to change in that. And every single race is droppable, if such a word does exist. So even if you have a good race 6, you have a bad race 6, that result could affect it. So we do have to kind of calculate down to the wire here in certain instances here as qualifying does end, and we will head down to our cooldown timer. So anybody who is in a live lap does have the ability to complete said lap as long as they started it before the timer comes to a close. Remember, can't see it on our screen right now. Ryan Robertson has topped Mitch Heller by just a few hundredths of a second here, coming out in the very end there. You can see Ross Booth did improve his time as well. Keatslar did gain a spot as well. So LMP's definitely having some good qualifying competition here. Again, race number 4. I'm trying, for some reason, it's only 6 races in this schedule, and for some reason, I could just never seem to remember what it is. Brands Hatch, that's what next week is, but I do remember week number 6 is a race that I kind of talked to Terry Dahl about. He asked me for my take on the schedule. I said Daytona Road might be fun in this series. I don't think it's ever been run, at least under my watch, and you know what? They're running it, so Daytona Road will wrap up the season in 2 weeks' time. Of course, Brands Hatch will be in 2 weeks' time, because of course here for us in the United States, next week is Thanksgiving, a family day that most of us will not have the luxury of sim racing on. Not sure whether it is or not, but we will always give a shout out to Enidine. I don't have the sponsor read, but Enidine has sponsored many races, and we'll give them a quick shout out. Of course, for the channel, if you haven't liked and subscribed, would appreciate if you hit those 2 buttons here, thumbs up and the subscription button. Helps us out with our counts, algorithms, and all that fun stuff. But that is going to be the end of the server here, end of the qualifying server. So in a few seconds time, we'll get ready to head down trackside and give you the starting lineup for today's race number 4 of the Red Sox Racing League here at Watkins Glen. That is the 0 countdown, waiting for the grid, and then we'll get it finalized, and there it is. So let's head down trackside and give it to you, the PTR TV starting lineup here today for the Red Sox Racing League at Watkins Glen. On tonight's poll, with that lap time of 1 minute 32.284, goes to Ryan Robertson. Congratulations on his first LMP pole, with Mitch Heller to his outside. On the outside of road number 1 is going to be Ross Booth, with Alex Kitzlar in the 2nd spot. In the 4th spot, rather. In 5th, we have David Berry, Les Turner, the Batmobile in 6th, Jason Breyfogle in 7th, Robert Cancy and Nathan. Then wrapping up our LMPs is Todd Barron Pietri and Bill Paulucky. On the pole for our GT3s is Aldo Secklin in the 666, 143.190. Robert Barros going to roll off on the outside of that class. Remember, they are separated by about 10 seconds or so between classes. Peter Mahler in 3rd. Still looking for that first win, always up there in these races. Joe Burchett in 4th. He is one of the old-timers coming back for the race. Andrew Lunsford in 5th. Mark Kidrowski in 6th. Terry Dahl in 7th, with Paul Lindsay in 8th. Brian Irby in 9th, and then Dwayne McCarthy rounding out the top 10. Still have 7 more. Again, quite the field here tonight. Scott Huston at 11th, Reed Rundle in 12th, Kevin Kyle in 13th, Adam Chapman used to broadcast this series when we were on a hiatus. He's in 14th, James Prostel Jr. in 15th, Ed Sutcliffe in 16th, and then Rafa Casakurta if I'm saying that correctly. Shotgun and tail on the field in 17th. So pacing right now, 1 lap around, a 3.4 mile layout here around Watkins Glen International boot configuration. The weather here this evening on the virtual world, 77 in the air with an 84-degree track temp. Humidity and wind nothing to speak of. Partly cloudy skies here on offer. Our race analysis here. Yeah, that statistic doesn't really work too well because there's no finite lap, so no use pulling up that graphic. Coming down the back straightaway here, again, big field, Watkins Glen. For those who have NASCAR kind of knowledge, experience, you always know that the super speedways kind of bring out, you know, Daytona and Talladegas. They bring out the biggest fields because they're easier. Most people know how to race them, and everyone feels that they can be competitive here. Watkins Glen kind of does the same thing in the road course side of iRacing, and really any car you take it to, everybody knows Watkins Glen. It's a relatively easy track. I'm not going to say it's easy because it can come out and bite you in a few spots, but it's a relatively easy track, so you will get bigger car counts here. You'll get people who they realize the series is coming here and they'll dust off the wheel and, you know, they'll test their luck out. And I think that has happened in a few instances. Terry Dahl told me that there's certain people he does expect every time Watkins Glen is on the calendar, and, you know, not let down here today. Biggest field of 27, I believe, assuming everybody starts. Looks like we have 24 on track right now. Irby, Prostel, and Casacerta currently not up to speed right now. So as it is right now, still 24 on the lineup here, which is a great field to see. In 35 minutes, roughly 23 to 24 laps. Have our pit stop and our limited fuel load here as we come through the end of the boot. Again, with the new update to Watkins Glen, circa late 2021 or so, whenever it was released. The new updated laser scan with the repave that we've been waiting on for years does have some differences with the off-track system, which is rather important in this series. So you can't run wide in certain areas, and now you can run wide as there's a lot more pavement out there. So some just minor nuances these guys will have to take into account, but coming into the final quarter here at the Glen. Red Sox Racing League race number 4 at the Glen. Let's get ready for a night of fun. Pace car takes the hard right-hand turn in. These LMPs will get up to speed. Green flag in the air. On that loud pedal is Robertson. We're racing here at the Glen. Firing off into corner number 1. Hard on the binders is everybody down the hill into the 90-degree turn number 1. Robertson gets the lead with no contestant. Heller is going to have to deal with Ross Booth. Booth has one of his best qualifying runs in quite some time, so he's going to be up there. Usually he has to fight from the back. Tonight he does not have to. We're going to be battling down the back straightaway into turn number 1. Robertson had to do a little bit of a block there on Heller, but he's going to be all right and hold the lead for the time being. But now, here we come with the green flag. Couldn't have timed that better if I tried. Green flag for our GT3 class firing off into turn 1. Of course, these guys have a bigger field. Let's see how they can navigate. So far, so good. Secklin out by about a half a second off the get-go there. Barros and Burchett, Kudrowski and Mahler, the top 5 that class has singled out. But this is where the draft is going to come into effect on this back straightaway, then hard on the binders into the hairpin, or rather the chicane here, excuse me. That purple car, Adam Chapman there, struggled on the entry there, lost a little bit of time. See a little bit of a gap has developed between our top 3. A Ferrari of Aldo Secklin up front. Don't see a lot of Ferraris in this series, but let's go back up to LMP here as they complete their first lap here off of the final corner down the front straightaway. And modest size front straightaway down the hill into the 90, which is called turn number 1. And then here is where you build up all the speed. Here's where you build up a huge run. Want to get a good run off of 1, because usually, especially in the LMPs, these The S's are flat out, so you're using this entire duration of the S's and the back straightaway to get a massive slipstream, and here you come. Robertson's going to go for the defensive line to the inside, and not able to take advantage using the offline to the left there was Heller, but the gap has been eliminated. So can Heller take advantage of it? He's has plenty of time. Alex Keatslar just behind Ross Booth. Did lose a spot to Keatslar, but we'll see if he can get it back. Always expect Booth to be a challenge in these races. Slight battle back there for 6th and 7th. Breyfogle and Turner were digging at it for a little while. Watkins Glen is one of those tracks where if you do get stuck on the outside, it's not a death sentence. You can make it work up there and pinch the guy down. Again, the corners, there's not a lot of switchback sections here. It's pretty much one corner straightaway, less the S's and the chicane. So if Robertson does give Heller the defensive line, it still may work out in Heller's favor if he's able to take advantage of it. He's much, much closer this lap than he was the prior lap. So we'll see if he's able to take advantage of it. He didn't get off a 1, though, nearly as well as he would have liked to. We'll go on the rear bumper cam of Robertson here, headed up the hill, currently 0.3 of a second. And here he comes, 0.2 of a second. We'll go up from the chopper cam here, down the back straightaway. You can see he's going to the left, but just doesn't have the opportunity. And this early in the race, you're not going to force it in there. Heads into the carousel right to the back bumper, but the only problem is you don't want to get too close because you will lose the air when you're that close. That is kind of a problem here at Watkins Glen because of the high speeds on offer. Sometimes there is an aero wake issue here, but just quickly checking back in on GT3, a little bit of a battle for third, shaping up. Kedrowski in the pink machine looking to the inside of Robert Barrows. That's for third, won't be able to shove it in there, but Aldo Secklin has pulled away by 1.5 seconds over Joe Burchett. Just looking back quickly, let's see, that GT3 class, much to my surprise, has spread out. I thought they would have been on top of each other this whole race. Kedrowski and Barrows hot and heavy for that podium spot for third. Onto the inside is Kedrowski into the bus stop there, but does have to pull out in the abort that pass last second. See Heller here, still about 2-3 of a second back. He's not getting through the second half of the course as good, and I think that the slipstream is, I do think Robertson has a little bit more pace, but the slipstream is doing exactly what we expected it to do, and this is as close as he's been, but he's not going to bother trying to take an attempt here. Just going to stay right in line. Oh, wrong corner, wrong buttons there. That is my bad. But here we can see through the carousel there how much time he loses, but the carousel is also a very aero-dependent section of the track, so not a surprise there to have a little bit of issues, but gonna have to kind of peek his nose out and try to make something happen here, as Kedrowski still trying to make something happen in regards to that third spot in GT3 to Robert Barrows here, as we're 6 minutes into today's efforts. See, just losing that speed on exit, which is the worst place to lose it, is on exit. A little bit further back, a little trio of vehicles. Scott Husted, Dwayne McCarthy, Reed Rundle. McCarthy underneath Husted entering turn number 1. Husted's he's gonna fight it, and they're gonna stay side by side. Exiting 1 and up through the S's, they're gonna stay side by side. That's Reed Rundle, who's gonna try to take advantage of the situation, with Husted being rather McCarthy being in that precarious position. Now these guys are going to be in a little bit of a battle again. This is 8th, 9th, 10th in class, but still a good battle nonetheless. And see, McCarthy struggles. He's going to go super wide. Rundle, nearly some contact there, but they do evade that, as Husted has issues, and he was just up leading this charge down. So quickly, let's go back and check on this, and then we'll go back to our leaders. Still nothing has changed up front. You can see that Husted here just lost it by himself and hard into the barrier there. Remember, I was made sure that I remembered that there is one fast repair in this series. I never knew it in the many years I've been covering it here, but Ryan Robertson manages to get by Husted there, and the GT3 gets out of the way with his hampered vehicle headed down into the heel of the boot. Right-hander here. You have to be careful how wide you go. Now this is going to get very interesting, because now we are catching the tail end of the GT3s, but we're not just catching one at a time, we're catching a whole conga line of GT3s, and the top four still within striking distance of each other. Ross Booth even only 1.3 seconds back, so there goes Heller by the first of them. I believe that was Bill Paul. I believe that was Ed Sutcliffe. And a little bit of lockup there. Heller had to lock up on entry there. He's going to lose time to both Keatslar and Booth. Ryan Robertson using this to his advantage as they slalom by these guys through the S's, getting by Reed Rundle there in that battle we were just watching with Dwayne McCarthy. Slaloming there. It looks like the top four will clear entering the bus stop. Breifogel has a ways to go as he does clear as well. Now here comes Ryan Robertson having to run the outside in the carousel. Now here comes Keatslar splitting the difference there. Terry Dahl is just in a very precarious position. Ross Booth is going to take advantage of that with Keatslar being in an awkward position. He's going to try to take the outside lane. Now they don't want to race too hard right now, because that's going to let Ryan Robertson get out of there and out of the slipstream range. But if he does that, we don't know if they're going to get back to him here in the back of the boot, in the heel of the boot. See another line of cars just in front, still side by side, as Keatslar and Booth exiting the boot into the NASCAR chute straight away. And then we'll head into the penultimate corner. We can see that Ryan Robertson trying to flash his headlights and make his presence known here, but he's coming up on Peter Mahler and a couple guys around him right now, Lunsford and Barros. Half second back to Ross Booth, but Booth isn't going to be able to get by Barros there. That's going to create a little bit of a gap, get that lead for Robertson upwards of a second. Aldo Secklin, meanwhile, in his class, currently up by 2 seconds over Joe Burchett and Kedrowski, who they will be swallowed up by the LMPs, well, now, because here they are. Kedrowski already got past, and Booth again stuck behind, so Booth not having the luck that the leader is. Usually it's vice versa, that second place gets the run and the leader has the difficult time, but the leader has been getting through traffic better, and a little bit of timing of it. Cut myself off there mid-sentence. Heller was doing some agricultural work there. It's just a matter of timing, though. If you catch him at the right spot, you know, you have that opportunity to save yourself that time. If you don't catch him in the right spot, then basically what's happening to Ross Booth is what's going to happen. You're going to lose that time, and now Booth is just going to have to use pure speed here as he gets by Aldo Secklin here, and lost a little bit of time getting to him there on the exit of the boot. So now they're going to be clear for a little while. Big wiggle there from Keatslar. Oh no! Aldo Secklin goes around. Our race leader for GT3 loses it exiting the boot, and he's going to instantly pull to the pits. That's going to change GT3 entirely, because he had this thing pretty much dominated. Replay on screen. See, he's just exiting the boot, and that was self-induced. And who was that? That was Mitch Heller. So, tragic turn of events there for both our last week winner and the fastest GT3 in class. Heller may be able to recover from this. Now he's 8 seconds back. If he's in his pit window, may want to pit now. Use the. That's probably what I would do, is I would try to pit now and take advantage of it, and try. It could, you know, kind of save the damage. Both literally, you can fix the damage, but you know, running less laps at a slower pace with a damaged car may be advantageous to try that strategy out. But now Joe Burchett is going to be the beneficiary of the GT3 lead, and now Mark Kiedrowski in second, who is about a second and a half back. Now Burchett is kind of in the middle of a rather an LMP sandwich right now, and something going on up here. Looks like Keetzlar got by Booth through the boot section there. Now Robertson up by almost 2 seconds now. Now, and we'll take a look at lap times. We just need to get a clear lap for each of these guys so that we can actually get a good condition of what lap is being run by each. So 132.6. Keetzlar was a skosh faster, 1/100th of a second faster last lap. Put on the screen for you to the left of the ticker. You can see a 68 to a 67. So that is obviously not going to close in a 2-second gap. So it's going to take a strategy call, it's going to take traffic, or it's just going to take a bad pit stop. Now Robertson is definitely not one to make a lot of mistakes. I do know Keetzlar is usually very aggressive on the fuel, at least I believe he is. I'm trying to remember. There's always one guy in the series who's very aggressive on the fuel. It may take that indeed to eat into that gap. And Heller's still in the 5th spot now, 11 seconds back, ran 2 seconds slower than Robertson last time by. Burchett is pulling away quite handsomely by over Kiedrowski now. It was a second and a half, now it's upwards of 2.3 seconds. Barrows, Lunsford, Rundle, Dahl, Sutcliffe, Mahler. Not too much going on in GT3. Again, kind of completely opposite of what I expected. I expected GT3 to be the tighter class, but definitely the LMPs are taking that title away. Todd Marin Pietri in the 808 under fire from David Berry in that 14, but also both of which trying to close in on Robert Kansian in that 199 here as we're 15 minutes into tonight's efforts. Aldo Secklin, for the record, has fully retired from the race. Didn't choose to use his fast repair. Was going for the win. Wasn't going to get it. Decided to pull out of said race. See Les Turner here in the Batmobile closing in on the wounded Mitch Heller car. Again, sometimes Mitch, he tells me he listens to me, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. In this situation, I don't know the exact fuel numbers, but if the fuel window is open, I would pit right now, use that fast repair. If it is open, I would have pit the second that crash happened, but he's definitely going to want to pit on the earlier end, utilize that fast repair, and just try to stop some of this bleeding, because again, he's running 34, mid 34s when his guys up front are running 32s, low 33s. So definitely the bleeding's going on there. And again, I want to switch over lap times. Just look at the top three right now. 44, a 46, a 45. Top three are basically running identical laps. Breyfogle about a half second back. Then you can see on the bottom with GT3, last time by Kiedrowski, actually quite sizably faster than Burchett. And it looks like it was uninterrupted. So maybe Kiedrowski getting into a rhythm here. He needs to gain 2 seconds. Basically, it's 2.2 seconds for the lead in each class right now. So maybe he's finding something to make a race out of this. Barrows, third, Lunsford, and Rundle, your top five. And Booth and Keetzlar still battling for that second spot. Much of a surprise to me that Booth hasn't had a little bit more pace, but yeah, you can kind of even just tell how much tighter he is running right in the dirty air of Keetzlar. There's not, in some corners here at Watkins Glen, you can evade the dirty air, but you're just going so fast. You need all that downforce, and when you're behind someone on a high-speed corner, you know, you're losing it. It's just, you know, we hear about it in all forms of motorsport. See, he's trying to run a little bit tighter line there through the exit of the boot. But he did a pretty decent job staying with him here. This corner is not too easy to change lines at all. Kitzlar didn't really hit the apex there. That gave some clean air to the nose of Booth, and he was able to take advantage of it through the final corner here. Let's see what happens going into one. A little bit harder on the brakes there. They both kind of hit the apex equally. So now that should set up a good slipstream opportunity for Booth heading into the bus stop, but he kind of missed the first apex there for the S, but still getting a good slipstream here down the back straightaway. Let's see what he does with it, if anything. He's going to take a dive. And he's going to successfully make the pass. I don't think Kitzlar really fought it too hard. Now 2.5 second gap as Heller continues to lose spots. Robert Cansian on the 199 just got by. So now Ross Booth, he's just in a straight out slugfest now to gain 2.5 seconds, and we're now over halfway, 16 minutes to go. Well, just nearly 17 minutes to go. Of course, a 35-minute race, so we are just past halfway. And I'm just trying to take a look to see if anybody has pitted that I've missed through the course of battle. I haven't really seen anybody of note pit. Everybody who is in has succumbed to damage. At least that's what it seems. Adam Chapman's been in for 6 laps. Kevin Kyle 6 laps down, or multiple laps down. So not seeing that. We'll do a quick through the field since we have the opportunity to do so at the moment. Of course, Ryan Robertson leading this thing down with Ross Booth in second, again for LMPs anyways. Alex Kitzlar in third, Jason Breyfogle in fourth, Les Turner in fifth, Robert Cansian in sixth, Todd Barron Pietri in seventh, Mitch Heller coming to pit road in eighth in class, Bill Pollocky in ninth, and then David Berry the 10th. And then for LMPs, again, this is the ticker is kind of wrong in this capacity, but Birch at 11th, first in class, Kudrowski second in class, Barros, Lunsford and Reed Rundle 5th in class, Terry Dahl 6th in class, Peter Mahler 7th in class, Ed Sutcliffe 8th, Husted 9th, and that is the last that is the last GT3 on the racetrack. Kitzlar starting to fall back just a little bit from Booth, who is starting to slowly inch his way up, as he's going to probably lose a little bit here now, stuck behind Peter Mahler on the exit of the boot. But he had a 2.25 second, 2.4 second deficit. Has that shrunk down to, it was down in the into the ones, but now right around 2 seconds. Last time by, he was 2 seconds, 0.2 of a second faster. This time by, even through traffic, he was 0.3 of a second up over Robertson. Robertson looking for his first LMP win. Of course, he dominated in GT3 last season, but switched to LMP this season and trying to get his first victory in this car as Breyfogle and Les Turner coming to the attention of their pit crew. We do have Peter Mahler in the pits for GT3 along with Ed Sutcliffe. Joe Burchett still on track. And look at the lead, or lack thereof. Robertson, lead shrunk down to about 1 second and 1/3. And now he's going to have Rundle slowing him down there. Oh, and some contact there in the boot between Rundle and Robertson. I don't know if that caused any damage, but again, to the same point I had with Mitch Heller, I would pit immediately if I was Robertson. Use that fast repair that is available to these drivers and save the bleeding as much as you can. Staying out with a potentially damaged car is going to be catastrophic. Let's see if he yields to my advice, he does not do so. So he would be, I mean, assuming that there's no damage to that vehicle, but we definitely did see some contact between him and Reed Rundle there. Lead now is solid second between the two of them. On the stopwatch, Booth was 1.1 seconds faster on that last lap. Gonna have some more traffic entering the bus stop here. That's Barros, and who is that into the dirt there? I think that's Shane Hunter. Well, it's not Shane Hunter because he's not here. Haha, Corey. Who was that? That was Andrew Lunsford, excuse me. Same ride that Hunter usually drives. But catching them when they did. Now Robertson, he doesn't have a lead. Booth is right there upon the rear wing of Robertson for that GT3 lead. Bill Paulucky in the pits for LMP at the moment. With 12 minutes to go, we expect these guys as our overall leaders to be in any time now, closing in on Mark Kedrowski as another GT3. They're going to catch him at another precarious position, right exiting the boot. We saw some carnage there with Aldo Secklin earlier in tonight's efforts here. Now Booth right in that dirty air, going very wide as Robertson there in the penultimate corner here. Let's see, he's going to pull the tight line. They're both going to come into the pits at the same time, as well as Kitzlar, who's trying to squeeze by Kedrowski there. But now we're going to boil down into that $1 million debate of who's going to take the right amount of fuel. We've seen it come into play, race and race and race. Some guys fill it up unnecessarily. Some guys don't take enough. Some guys take too much. That can... probably tonight will be the difference. And look at Ross Booth actually manipulating the pit speed just a little bit better there and almost past Booth on pit road. There is a pit speed limiter, but there's kind of a little bit of a hack where if you run without the pit speed limiter, you can kind of run about 1 mile an hour faster. And there goes Booth. He's going to have a sizable lead over Kitzlar and Robertson here. The pit stop time, 3 seconds faster. I guess depends how you want to look at it. A 12-second stop for Booth to about a 15-second stop for Robertson to about a 14-second stop for Kitzlar. So the $1 million question is, did Booth take enough fuel? And it's either Booth took not enough fuel or the other two took too much. It kind of depends which end of the spectrum you want to look at it on. David Berry exiting the pits. I can say that every other, the next shortest pit stop was a 13-1, and that was equal by Berry and Breifogel. So 7/10 faster than anybody else, and of the guys who we've been watching all day, about 2 seconds faster for Booth. So is there enough petrol in that number 6 car? I guess we'll have to find out. Here comes our GT3 leader of Joe Burchett to pit road, who had a 3-second lead over Andrew Lunsford, who is finding himself on pit road here as we now are within 10 minutes remaining in tonight's efforts. Barrows just behind. Terry Dahl on the 6th spot. Quiet run for him here. Then we'll see how this shakes out. And Joe Burchett exited the pits. He had about approximately a 10-second stop, and that seems to be this theme in GT3 of about a 9 to 11 second stop. It was about 14 to 15 seconds for LMP, except with Booth having that anomaly of a fast stop. He is about 1.2 seconds ahead of Robertson. And it'll be interesting to see. So, of course, they're not taking tires, but the tire time does cool down a little bit. Kind of creates a small heat cycle when you do come into the pits, and Booth definitely was better out in the long run, but Robertson is kind of better on the colder tires. So we'll see what happens here. He's probably just out of what I would call slipstream range. Usually it's about 3/4 of a second that you really start to feel a good toe. So Ross Booth presuming he has enough fuel, really just needs to kind of run a steady pace here. Because, of course, as Robertson gets closer, he'll have that dirty air to contend with. Kitzler starting to fall back from this just a ways to the point where he will require some sort of issue to get himself back into it. Next closest other battle on track is Robert Kansian in the 199 trying to close in on the Batmobile of Les Turner. It's about 0.6 of a second back. That would be a battle for the 6th position here in LMP. And closest battle on track. Closest battle in GT3. This is about a 1.5 seconds between Lunsford and Barrows, which would be a battle for the 3rd position in GT3. For what it's worth, last time by Robertson, 0.3 of a second up on Booth. So it's just a matter of not making mistakes. It's a matter of getting through the traffic efficiently, and it's a matter of utilizing the slipstream in the best way possible here as catching another GT3. Want to get it past. It looks like the GT3 is going to go super wide. That was Scott Husted. Very respectful there, but even so he was. Still cost Ryan Robertson quite a bit of lead. So I think it's mainly a point at this junction in the race to see if enough fuel is in Booth's car, and if, of course, we know on iRacing that there are many third-party apps available that can tell you basically down to the 1/10 of a gallon exactly how much fuel you need to finish the race. And some guys have it, and it'll literally say you need 7.1 gallons of fuel, so the guys will know exactly how in the iRacing to ensure the car takes 7.1 gallons. And then you can save time on that pit stop. Other guys don't use that same telemetry data. They don't use those same tools. So that kind of makes it more of a guessing game. And you're calculating while you're driving, trying to figure out how much fuel you used per lap. How much do I need to finish the race? And it makes it very, very difficult. It makes you make a lot of mistakes while driving, and it's also very hard to get that number very accurate if you're not using those kind of telemetry tools. So you can kind of tell the guys who use them because they're going to be taking those faster stops because they know within a high probability that that number is going to be accurate. So it'll be interesting to see how that does work, and if Booth definitely does have the petrol to finish this out. Under 5 minutes to go, so we'll be looking at about 3 more laps or so here with about 1.5 minutes around the Watkins Glen International. And Joe Burchett now up by 10 seconds. Of course, remember Aldo Secklin having that self-induced spin, exiting the boot, damaging that car, retiring him from the race. Joe Burchett was second and just took advantage of it in the pink ride and has just kind of run this thing with nice smooth pace and has taken advantage of the situation. Of course, first time of the season that Joe has been with these guys. He is, as I said, I'm just kind of reading some of the notes here that Terry gave me ahead of time. He was a long-time runner in the league, blast from the past, and Watkins Glen is his Daytona. When he sees it on the schedule, he shows up, and Terry was glad to see, you know, a lot of the long-timers in the series, it's a series of long-timers. I mean, I've been covering these guys off and on since 2018, and I can tell you, even covering them in 2018, when I came back for 2022, I still remembered the vast majority of the names in here. Of course, there's some new ones, but your Kitzlars, your Hellers, your Turners, Kedrowski, Rundle, Dahl, Sutcliffe, Prostel, McCarthy. I mean, these names I've been covering since 2018. So these guys know each other. They're very consistent. They're very respectful. And there's preliminary talks of me stepping out of the booth for a single race next season and maybe running with these guys. I definitely wouldn't be able to do an LMP, but I may be able to hold my own in a GT3. Maybe run 6th or 7th on a certain track. You never know, but at least for the situation up front in LMP, Robertson was running some flyers. Those flyers have landed, and now he's last time by 0.3 of a second off of Booth. So now the odds of him getting that first LMP win after his GT3 championship last season are becoming slimmer and slimmer. And I'll tell you, it's always, as a driver, the worst place you can lose a race is in the pits. Now Robertson, he didn't have the faster car, as we saw with Ross Booth towards the end of the first stint before the pit stop, but he had speed that in the right circumstance could very well have won this race. But to lose it on pit stops and just by taking too much fuel, that's just a tough way to lose a race. You want to lose a race on the track, whether it's because you went fast or you screwed up, or whether you made the right move, or whether you didn't defend, or whatever it is. You want to lose the race as a driver. You don't want to lose the race as a strategist. So in that regard, I think that would be more difficult for Robertson to swallow, but maybe we'll get to talk to him at a later date about that. Slight battle between Paul Lucky and Berry for the shotgun position, for the caboose position, 9th and 10th in LMP. 10 seconds still the lead in LMP right now, but rather in GT3. So not too much to go on about there, but where we are on the clock right now, 1 minute to go, so we'll probably cross the stripe with, I would say, 20 to 30 seconds left. So we should be getting the white flag lap upon completion of this next lap, and then we'll have 3.4 more miles on top of that to crown a race winner here, as some more traffic coming into play here. Booth getting by Terry Dahl. And Reed Rundle just in front of that. Dahl again, a very quiet race, quiet season for Dahl. Had some really good runs last season, or rather 2 seasons ago in the GT4s. I remember there was a race at Oka, I believe, no, it was Barber, that he actually almost won. But since the switch to GT3 has been a little bit more quiet, but we'll see what happens with him, currently in 6th in class. But coming off of the final corner, and this is the white flag lap here at Watkins Glen. 3.4 more miles for Ross Booth to get his 2nd win of the season in his number 6 ride. And Joe Burchett trying to see if he can come through and win this thing for, as the one-off event. But coming down the back straightaway here, I don't believe, we'll check on the onboard here, doesn't look like there's any traffic to contend with, so Booth's just going to have to run some nice smooth laps. He did run 0.4 of a second slower than Robertson last lap, but that's not going to be enough. And as long as he did the calculations right and has the right amount of fuel in that ride and has enough petrol to get him around about a quarter of a lap, he'll be able to get that 2nd win of the season and extend that points lead over Heller, who is currently, did make the comeback up to the 5th spot. Coming out of the last set of corners here, exiting the boot, he will hit just the cusp of the next GT3 traffic, but he'll be able to take his time with it because he has about a 2-second lead and 2 corners to go. That's Barrows right in front of him. Shouldn't cause any issue because he has a 1.5-second lead. He'll take his time. He'll come off the final corner, and Ross Booth, using the pit strategy to success, and wins his 2nd race of the season here at the Glen. Meanwhile, in GT3, Joe Burchett is now down the back straightaway heading into the bus stop with a 15-second lead over Mark Kidrowski. Kidrowski just now getting onto the back straightaway with Burchett now exiting the carousel. Just shows the lead that he has. Remember, Aldo Secklin, who had the fastest vehicle all race, just got a wheel in the grass exiting the boot. And it's actually coming up right around here where he had his issues. It was exiting the boot back into the chute. Got that wheel into the grass. That caused his car to spin around, lose control into the fence, and that was the moment for him that changed this race, because Joe Burchett said, well, I had a second place car, and well, just put it in victory lane. I didn't make a mistake, you did, and now this became my race to lose. And with a 16, almost 17 second lead, almost gained 2 seconds just in the time that we've been talking about him. He's going to come through the final 2 corners here at Watkins Glen, and Joe Burchett in the one-off. He's the Watkins Glen guy. He wanted to show up here when we went to the Watkins Glen circuit, and he did so with good cause, because he's going to win the GT3 class here at the Glen. Great bit of driving between both classes here at the Glen, and congratulations to both winners. Let's head down and give you the final results here. Actually, may have to wait a minute or so just because of the distance of this track. There's still actually quite a bit of drivers still turning live laps, so just going to give them a little bit more time. And I don't have any of my post-race guys here. I don't have Booth or Burchett for interviews, so just going to give them a kind of stall for a moment. And that's the race over mark, so let's go ahead and give you the results now that the race is formally over. With the overall win here today, the second time this season, Ross Booth is going to put it in victory circle with Ryan Robertson in second. Alex Kitzlar with the third. We have Jason Breifogel in fourth. Mitch Heller in fifth with Les Turner sixth. Robert Kansian in seventh. Todd Marin-Pietri in eighth. Bill Pollucky, and then David Berry rounding out the top 10. And that is our LMPs. Now, for our GT3 grid, we have Joe Burchett with that victory. Andrew Lunsford in second. Mark Kudrowski with the third. Robert Barrows in fourth. Reed Rundle with a fifth. Terry Dahl with sixth in class. Peter Mahler in seventh. Ed Sutcliffe in eighth. Scott Husted in ninth. And then Dwayne McCarthy 10th. And then rounding out in 17 guys, big field here this evening. Kevin Kyle 11th. Aldo Secklin 12th. Adam Chapman in 13th. Paul Lindsay in 14th. Brian Irby in 15th. Prostel in Casacerta did not take time here today. And Booth, Ross is already here, man. You got a copy, brother?
I gotcha.
All right, man. So you won the race on speed, but it's also safe to say you kind of won it in the pits too. You had a 3-second faster pit stop than Roberts there. I know you were catching him before the stint anyways, but then managed to seal the deal with that lightning fast stop and probably timing the fuel load down. Just kind of wrap up your race for me.
Man, that was a really good race. The traffic was really nuts through the first time through, especially following Alex and Mitch and Ryan sort of playing cat and mouse on who gets a better run out of the exit and setting them up and trying to get a better launch down the straightaway to get in position to pass them. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, I just was able to have able to dial in my fuel calcs for tonight and had a really good stop. And I think Ryan took a little bit too much, so that's sort of both played a part in me getting the lead there. And once I got out front, we were just cruising home.
Yeah, I know having a good qualifying run definitely helped. Only starting third. I know a couple runs this season you were kind of tail end of the LMPs or kind of fifth or sixth, but starting right up front, you had less challenges. But overall, what was the handling like? It kind of looked from a visual perspective like Dirty Air was playing a factor, especially in the carousel and maybe at a couple other corners. Was that a factor at all tonight?
Yeah, the setup had a lot of understeer and clean air, so it just got even worse once we were behind another car. You really needed the car in front of you to make a mistake out of turn one or something like that to get a run on them going into the bus stop. Other than that, you were just sort of sitting behind, just burn up your front tires sitting behind them. So I was able to get it past a couple and get past Ryan in the pits, and there you have it.
Yeah, indeed, you'll gain on your points lead with Heller kind of having some issues middle of the race there, and we'll see what you can do at Brands Hatch in 2 weeks' time. But who do you want to give a shout out to for your victory here tonight?
Just shout out to Les and Terry. Looks like we had another great field tonight, so they're doing an awesome job keeping people interested and coming back each and every week. It's a great league to race in, nice and clean, and you always have someone to race with, whether you're up at the front, middle, or in the back. So lots of fun here, and shout out to you. Broadcasts are great, and shout out to Composite Performance. We're doing great things over here.
Yes, you are. Congrats again, man, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All right, so I don't think we're going to get Joe Burchett here for a GT3 interview, so we'll kind of stall for a minute, see if he pops in. But again, that's a broadcast here. Again, thanks to Sib TV for the cameras and the B-roll footage. They do a great job with that. Make sure you like and subscribe if you have not done so. Stay tuned for Tuesdays with the TNR Ambassador Bill Wright Big Block Series. We'll still be covering them on this coming Tuesday. And then 2 weeks' time, again, with the Thanksgiving holiday, we'll be back on December 1st for Brands Hatch for Round 5 of the Red Sox Racing League. That's Corey signing out of the booth here tonight. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.